When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind to Raw with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The 18 that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind to Raw for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind to Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the mic.
Welcome to Rewind to Raw. It is John Pollock here alongside Wai Ting, and we've got quite the show to go through coming off of TLC. And off the top, I do want to wish condolences to a friend of the site, Dave Meltzer, the passing of his mother on Monday. Everyone here at Post Wrestling, we want to wish condolences to Dave and his entire family, but I just want to mention that off of the top. How are you tonight, Wai?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, not so bad. It's counting down the days till the end of this year, I guess. We're approaching Christmas, so that's a nice thing. But then, one more week to go after that. 2
more weeks, and we are going into lockdown on Saturday. Are you excited? 28 days.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a difference that makes for me in particular. I mean, I haven't...
Probably minimal.
Yeah, so it's definitely a bigger issue for, students, because schools are going to be closed after the holidays for at least 2 weeks, and in some cases maybe even more, like 4 weeks maybe. So yeah, I
think of that for parents. Their kids come home from university for Christmas, and hey, mom, dad, we're not going back. We're here to stay.
It's a whole bunch of I'm sure time management issues that it presents, but it seems like it really has to be done. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, we have a lot to discuss. We'll be getting to Raw and your feedback. Off the top, though, we're going to go through all of the news happening today. And who better to bring on to go through some of the key news items? He is Post Wrestling's own Andrew Thompson. What's going on, Andrew?
John Pollock and Wai Ting, my good man from up north. How you fellas doing, man?
We're doing well. How are you feeling at this point, man? You worked all day, sat through Raw, and now you're here with us. I'm amazed that you're still standing at this late hour.
I'm thrilled, man. I'm thrilled. Always thrilled.
Well, tell us what's going on news-wise. What's topping the headlines today?
Man, so actually something I did was very interested to talk to you guys about. I kind of literally just saw this before we started recording it. It was that. Did you guys happen to see that video that Dana White put out?
Oh my God. I could do this whole show, Andrew, on this video, and I'm seriously, I don't have the capacity to go through this. If you are so inclined to watch this 5-minute video of Dana White, that I feel like this man, since everything that went down in May and April, has envisioned this video and was probably seated next to his editor going frame by frame. It's basically him giving a fuck you to every... He has just pigeonholed the media as the ones that doubted him. And it's just... it's so... ridiculous. It's so absolutely absurd. I will encourage everyone to go, if you don't follow Luke Thomas MMA on Twitter, he has gone through with receipts. He has gone through every article that's cited, and he gives merit to whether it's a valid criticism that Dana is bringing up or whether they are extremely reaching. Of course, this is all about the decision for the UFC to run and how they were doubted. And look what we did. No mention of positive tests along the way, which were going to happen. No mention of the fact that it was, government officials that were getting involved here, that it was Disney that was uneasy about the fact that they were considering at one point going to a unregulated Indian reservation to run a show. None of that stuff is mentioned. It is just the media doubted us. Look at us on top of the world. It is a piece of unbelievable theater from the UFC and Dana White. Those are my thoughts on it.
So yeah, if you haven't really seen it, if anybody's listening to this haven't seen the video, it's just a quick rundown of it. Basically, it just recaps the early headlines in March and April, and how there were a lot of MMA journalists, quote unquote, Dana White, as he put it, doubting him for running during the COVID-19 pandemic, and he had legit caught like pictures of headlines and like the actual reporters who were reporting on the news, and like he had like screenshots of them and video footage of them talking about it, and he just like compiled this into like this 5-minute video that you just heard John describe. And at the end of it, he touted record number store sales and impressions for the Fight Island, and 0 jobs being lost at UFC during the pandemic. And like it was just it basically was recap what John just said, a big basically a FU to the media or anybody who had anything remotely negative to say about what he did and running through the pandemic. So I was going to pass it
one week after he noted that there will probably be about 60 fighters cut, and going back at the beginning of this pandemic when they wouldn't release any of their protocols ahead of time before they went to Fight Island. I'm going to get on a soapbox here, so we better move on. But honestly, just for the theater of it, like watch this video. Like it's stunning that they put this out. Well, maybe not so stunning. It definitely gives you a sense that it's not so much 6 degrees of separation between the mindset of Dana White and Donald Trump. It's more like half a step away from their mindset. They're very in sync with one another when it comes to what they can put out there, and making the media a very easy target, I think, for them to get whatever they need off their chest. So listen, there's a lot the UFC can be very proud of how they ran through this pandemic. I mean, the fact is they did eventually go to great lengths, and I think a lot of the criticism ended once it was put into practice and people knew what they were doing and the extremes that they were going to, along with the assistants in Abu Dhabi who were assisting them financially in all of this. So listen, there's I'm sure there are elements that he felt was unfair criticism, but at the beginning of the pandemic, I thought there was a lot of just criticism levied towards the UFC. Their first event they ran in Brazil, no COVID testing. So they came a long way from that first show, and overall, I think they did do a very good job this year.
Wait, did you happen to get a chance to see this video?
I have not. No, unfortunately, I try to stay away from all things Dana in my daily life.
I ain't gonna blame you on that, but we're gonna move on to the next topic, folks. We had some very serious news coming out early this morning. Ben K of Dragon Gate announced that he suffered a mild concussion. Did you? I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to see this video as well, but it kind of made the rounds of social media of what happened. Basically, Ben K was coming off the ropes, and he was facing Shun Skywalker, and he got hit like with a mean forearm. And you could tell Ben K was just like, he was done. You could just tell he was knocked out. He was not there at all. And Shun went to the top and hit 3 straight moonsaults on this dude. I think he hit him with a standing moonsault, and then connected with the knees, and then went up twice for a moonsault at the top. And then the referee counted, and then I'm assuming what it looked like, it wasn't the finish of the match. So the referee like hit the 3, but he didn't like call the match. And then Shun went back up to the top rope, hit Ben K with another moonsault while this dude was knocked out. And then the referee hit the 3. And then like you can see people kind of rush in and like kind of pull Shun off of Ben K. Like that was a very, very scary situation that could have went left, because it was like just clear as day that this man was not there in the slightest. And I saw a lot of people kind of, picking it apart. I think rightfully so. Just the fact that they kind of just let that go on for that long and be hit with 4 consecutive moonsaults while you knocked out in the middle of the ring. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's something that anybody wanted to see.
Yeah, I mean, to be transparent, I haven't seen the clip yet. I was told to check out the last 3 matches on the card. If I can have some time this week, I will. But just as you're describing it, I mean, this is something that unfortunately happens with like some degree of regularity that we see these, whether we're going back to that show at the Copper Box Arena last year that New Japan did during the Kenta match with Ishii. I mean, we've seen these types of scenarios where someone is clearly out of it. And I think that we just need like a more standard protocol for when this happens. And the old mentality of just, you've got to get to the finish no matter what. I think that's such a dated view of things. Like we're talking about on the same day where we're watching The Fiend, Bray Wyatt lit on fire. It's like nobody is taking this to a degree of seriousness that we can't treat this in the most serious fashion, that this is a athletic contest where injuries occur. And if someone is knocked out, that's it. The match is over. I think that you have a fan base that they think will react so negatively to something like that would happen, which momentarily, perhaps, but I think you have a much larger amount that would be thanking promotions for thinking like that. And this is something that I just think it's happened way too many times, that you just need to have a standard protocol that your referees know that when someone is out, that's it. It's over. We're not doing any more spots. We don't have to race to the finish. It's over. That's it. It's a no contest.
I just saw the GIF myself. It's a vicious looking forearm clothesline, and it's wrestling is so weird in that it's not like MMA where somebody gets knocked out and immediately you think that there could be something wrong, and so if you're a referee, you're going down to check. In wrestling, the job of the person getting hit is to look like they're unconscious. So it's a far more, I think, a sensitive area when you have to be able to navigate whether or not somebody's acting like they're unconscious or if they're actually unconscious. And I really don't envy any referee's job in having to navigate this. Definitely, if you want to lay some criticism on the referee in this particular spot, does it, call for some sort of review of like how you recognize a performer is not acting and they're actually unconscious? Maybe it does. Personally, I think things such as this are part of the risk of professional wrestling, and really unfortunate. I hope NK's all right.
Yeah, definitely hope NK's all right. Like I was about to jump right there to the next topic where you said something that kind of like really brought something back up. I know you guys remember when Alex Reynolds had his situation on Dynamite when he got knocked out, but he came out and publicly said on podcast that he wasn't knocked out and he was aware of what was going on the whole time. And you can pick and choose whether you believe what he saying, and I don't think he ever at any point criticized AEW for how that situation was handled. But I was just wondering, like, get kind of in a similar situation. I was wondering kind of what you guys feel about the Alex Reynolds thing. All these months have passed now, several months have passed now, and coming off this Ben K situation. And then, of course, Alex Reynolds, I think he was on the AEW Unrestricted podcast a couple of weeks back, and he kind of opened up more about the situation and just proclaimed that he wasn't knocked out and it was never that type of situation, and he was always aware, everything that he kind of had to say regarding the situation all these months later.
Yeah, I mean, like, the clip really, like, it is what it is. I mean, you watch that, and it's not like he came out at the time and said that, which I thought would have been strange, but because there was a lot of criticism at the time, I'm not going to argue over a man over what his capacity was in that moment. If that's what he's stating, okay, fair play to him. It looked pretty concerning watching that clip, and I think we've all seen enough pro wrestling clips to like that really was not a element of the match. So I don't know. But just getting to the larger point is that, we can see that these issues are going to happen. Like that's just the nature of the industry. And I think it's not so much like, is it a case right now where the referee is the third man in the ring to essentially be that person, and what guidance are they being given? I think it's, there are times when you might have a flash knockout. The referee is not going to catch everything, but in certain terms, like you, the viewer at home, it's very clear when someone is out on their feet or something has gone awry. And I think the mentality is more so that, well, we just fight our way through and get to the finish. And I think it would be much easier if we just have a black and white scenario that if someone is compromised, then that is the end of a match. That person is taken out. And if that requires like further, like a referee in pro wrestling has to serve a lot of different fronts, and maybe they have to be trained in such a way to be able to instantly identify, certain vital signs, to be aware of certain things, like to be able to check on them. We don't know exactly transparently all the training that is done in the different promotions with their referees, but that to me would be certainly something that unfortunately does fall on the referee to quarterback that, but it's a whole company initiative of what do we do the next time this happens. Every company will probably have one of these over the next year.
Any additional thoughts, my good man, Way?
Not so much. No, I think we've kind of said about as much as we can. It's a very kind of every situation's kind of different, So, yeah, what do you think?
And I think we hit the nail on the head pretty much. We, nailed it down. Hopefully, again, Ben K is all right. And, hopefully a situation doesn't come about again, for Alex Reynolds. Hopefully, he stays steady and, hopefully he's continuing to recover. And we've seen him back in the ring and, he's back on BT doing his regular thing. So, good for Alex Reynolds. And back on the WWE front, man, Kevin Owens is getting his rematch this Friday night on SmackDown. Of course, that show is being taped. That is WWE's Christmas show for SmackDown, and is going to be in a steel cage. He's going to be challenging Roman Reigns for the Universal title. I'm going to ask you guys, would you guys put it past? I mean, well, okay, so if this match is, the match is taped, so let's say they do a title change, right? Just for the sake of it, would you guys kind of put it past WWE to have this switch? And I doubt that I would be very surprised if a spoiler doesn't get out by the time Friday rolls around. But would you guys be surprised to have the switch happen to make people tune into SmackDown on a Christmas day to actually see how it turned out?
Oh yeah, that's interesting because they're taping it Tuesday and they've got the Thunderdome audience. So this is not the case of like this is on a closed set and fans will not see this. So in theory, we probably will know the results going into Friday's show. I'm not expecting a title change, but if there was one, yes, I would expect it would get out. I don't think that would be the fact that there is the Thunderdome audience there. That would certainly be out. It would definitely. I think to your question, Andrew, like if they were to pull a title switch, they would know full well that would get out, and I do think it would actually help the number. I like that's a big event, and that's not going to turn people away. That will actually, I think you'll get the opposite effect. Like that would have an impact on people tuning in and the curiosity to see Kevin Owens winning the title. I'm just not expecting.
It's a Christmas show. I don't know how much they're expecting in terms of ratings anyway. So why not just do the show that you're going to do anyway? And then if you happen to get some extra publicity out of it, then great. I don't expect a title change in Reigns versus Owens, but I do expect one for Big E. So I think that in itself might, gain a bit of interest.
They're loading this show up. This is like a big SmackDown on Friday.
Mm-hmm. They definitely are stacking this one up. I think it's 3 title matches. They got the women's tag title match too. So I'm definitely expecting. On your point, where I'm definitely thinking Big E probably gonna take the title off Sami Zayn.
And maybe if that's the case, like if they're following that football game, maybe they put Reigns and Owens on first. If it is Reigns retaining, and you have the big send off moment at the end of the show of Big E's big title win.
I would. Yeah, you definitely close the show with a good moment.
And, speaking of football, a loss for the pro football world and for the pro wrestling world, the passing of Kevin Greene, NFL Hall of Famer and former WCW wrestler. He had a couple of stints with WCW in the 90s. I only knew of Kevin, through his football career because I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So I've, heard his name before. And I used to use him as a character in the NFL Street Game. He was a beast. That's where I know him from. But you guys know Kevin from WCW. Obviously, you got to actually, I'm assuming you guys got to actually see him perform in the ring. Any memories that you guys have of Kevin Greene and his time in professional wrestling?
Well, just that Kevin Greene, when he came into it, I mean, it's, especially when we're talking about that era, this is the late 90s when you would get a celebrity crossover, it would be more often than not, it's the person that's coming over that, you hope that they're a fan of it. And very quickly if they are or they're doing it because, it's a gig and they're getting paid for. Kevin Greene was a massive fan. So you had a great athlete, a significant football player. Like this was not just some random player coming over. It was a massive Ric Flair fan. And he just took to it so well. And I remember at the period of people saying, like, if this guy had crossed over, he probably could have made that transition to wrestling. Like he took to it that fast, significantly more than Steve McMichael. God bless the guy. But Kevin Greene just had such a natural aptitude for wrestling because he was a fan of it and was this super athlete on top of it. So, I mean, he only did a handful of matches between 96 and 98. But, I mean, that's the part that stood out to me was if this guy, he played a few more years in the NFL. If he had made the transition, he did it late in his career. I think he could have. It's just, financially, he just had so much more left in the NFL.
Yeah, I really am not familiar with him other than maybe the brief occasional rewind aways where we might have gone back to watch something involving him. So I don't really have too many thoughts as it relates to either his in-ring career or his football career. But anytime a man dies at such a young age, it's obviously, very tragic. So our condolences.
Definitely condolences to his Kevin Greene's family. But that's gonna wrap it up for the news segment this week, fellas.
Cool. Well, Andrew, if we don't chat with you, have a wonderful holiday. Thank you for all of the work that you put in at postwrestling.com, and we'll definitely be chatting with you in the near future. So thanks so much for joining us tonight to go through all the news.
No problem, man. I got my my post Christmas card too. I did not get my post sticker, but I'm gonna file that complaint to corporate, and I'm gonna get that taken care of.
Oh, geez. We'll get right on that. We'll push it up to the higher ups.
I think Andrew's got to sneak in another workout. He's getting ready for the Royal Rumble challenge next month. I think he's doing 2-a-days with trivia and getting himself ready for the big comeback.
I'm getting ready to get cheated. That's what I'm ready for, man. But thank y'all for having me on, man. And good luck on the rest of the show.
Awesome.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks a lot, Andrew.
Peace.
AD Thompson _ is where you find the man. We thank him for all his contributions at postwrestling.com.
The double underscore.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it before. One other quick note I just wanted to get your thought on, Wai, was we did get the SmackDown number, which was on FS1 on Friday. They did 1,030,000 viewers, a 0.30 in the demo. So this is the best they've done on FS1 of the 3 times that they've gone there. Not going against the World Series, probably propped that up a little. But in looking at the comparisons, whether you think it's a fair comparison or not, it was AEW, Raw, and SmackDown all on cable last week. And it was AEW outdoing them in several of the key demos, not the least of which were adults 18 to 49 and adults 18 to 34.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a fair comparison it really is. But it was also a week of much decline for AEW. So even that beating a WWE show on FS1, I suppose, could be considered a good sign. But I really don't know how much you look into it overall for the long term.
I think it also shows just the bump that SmackDown gets by being on a network like Fox. I would say if SmackDown moved permanently to FS1, this was the same time slot, so it was not like moving to another night. I don't think they're doing 2 million viewers every Friday night, even if this was a regular occurrence. They did 1,030,000. You would think that it would swell a little bit above that, but they're not doubling that audience on FS1. So I think this is an interesting look at where would SmackDown be if they were on a cable network like FS1.
Perhaps.
All right. All of the news you can find at postwrestling.com. And coming up this week, we are going to be back on Tuesday night with Rewind Away number 77, the final Rewind Away of the year. And joining us will be Eric Marcotte, and we're going to go through UFC 165. John Jones, Alexander Gustafsson from the Air Canada Centre, now Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Ontario.
This was way back in 2013.
7 years ago.
Yeah, a fight that John and I were both at. I think we were both backstage. These all kind of blend in together, but I'm pretty sure you were backstage because I looked up some videos afterwards, and you were clearly holding the microphone and doing all that stuff. So Eric Marcotte will be joining us for this entire show, talking about this pretty memorable event, at least for most of us. And so I look forward to it. One of the few MMA rewind aways that we do every year.
And I'll share the story how I was supposed to meet up with a whole group for lunch, but got into a fender bender that day.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Wow. That's no good.
I made it to the card. I'll share that story on Tuesday. Wednesday, we've got a late night edition of Rewinded Dynamite. So in the U.S., Dynamite's going to be immediately following the NBA game. In Canada, I've been told that TSN2 will start it at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll have the show up late. It's going to be a bit of a shorter version, just going through Dynamite, and we'll get that up for you because the big show is coming Thursday. It is the 4th annual post-wrestling Christmas show. Many, many mystery guests. The invites have been sent out. We'll see who shows up. It's Thursday. It will be a lengthy Christmas.
Yes, I have a feeling it will be, but it'll be a very familial Christmas. I look forward to speaking to all the members of the Post Wrestling family and maybe a few surprise guests that we're meeting for the first time, too.
Ooh, what a tease. And then this weekend, we will be doing a Rewind to SmackDown for our patrons, but it will not be a live show. We're going to drop it on Saturday instead of Friday, so you can look out for that on the Post Wrestling Cafe feed. Wei and I will go through the Christmas edition of Friday Night SmackDown. Christmas Night SmackDown.
Christmas Night SmackDown. Okay.
Okay, let's get into Raw. Following TLC, it took them a good hour and a half to acknowledge that The Fiend was burnt to death the night before. They took their time.
No.
Isn't that the lead? Isn't that that's the headline? And it was like an hour and a half. It's like, okay, Randy Orton, weird stuff went down last night. Let's address this. There was gasoline. There was flesh.
I think Charlotte's return, was the big story coming out of the show. It trumps any sort of, incineration.
Do you expect that this show gets a bit of a bump after last week's low? That, the combination of the pay-per-view, whatever morbid curiosity there was for the Fiend angle, and Charlotte being back. Do you think all those factors, do you think it's up a decent amount, minimal?
I think you get a bit of a bump off of the pay-per-view. I don't really think Charlotte makes a whole lot of difference. Most of the talk coming out of the show was about the Fiend burning, and I don't know how much interest that would get. I'm trying to use a word that's not spark or.
I'm not kidding, Wei. I think if they had actually talked about this throughout the first and second hour and promoted the fact that they will re-air the ending, I think you would have got a curiosity of people to watch this stunt if they just re-aired the ending of that match.
Perhaps, yeah. I don't know. Would that be good publicity for them? I guess any publicity at this point is good.
I mean, you did it, so
you did it. Yeah, you're right.
What's the point of hiding it?
Well, it is a pay-per-view attraction, John. It's a spectacle, something you have to pay $9.99 for. But I don't know if I think this Raw will do better than last week. I don't think it'll be considerably better.
Actually, let's talk about this right now. So during the show, we were wondering, was there going to be any noticeable change to the show after last week? Any reaction? I would say the most significant thing is that in 2 weeks, they're going to do Raw Legends Night, and it's their going to the well again of bringing back all of the legends, like just a laundry list of people led by Hulk Hogan. And I just think we look at this and this is like their ultimate in the short-term ideas that will spark a number for a week. But as we've seen in the past, these ones, it's kind of law of diminishing returns each time they do this. The talent, the legends feel less special every time out, like they've done it. And I think this one, yes, it'll be up from the average, but I don't think this is going to be like a giant number of some of the reunions of the past. And again, if it's just a 1 week blip, I don't think this is really solving anything.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I think exactly the playbook that we expected them to go to anytime they have to hit the panic button. I can't tell you it's of any interest to me personally to see another, I don't know, maybe opening segment or even backstage party involving the likes.
That's all it's going to be, Wei. It's all going to be these self-contained things that have no relevance to the current stories, and then they're gone next week. We know this playbook.
It's going to be Ron Simmons showing up to say, damn. Tori Wilson will be sipping from the punch bowl. Who else did they...
Did you catch... I caught literally all the people they showed images of. They actively promoted Hogan, Flair, Kurt Angle, Beth Phoenix, and Tori Wilson. Those are the big five that they're promoting.
Big Show as well.
Well, then they had individual shots of Big Show, Jacqueline, Booker T, Sergeant Slaughter, Jimmy Hart, Carlito, IRS, Candice Michelle, Tatanka, Michael Hayes, Boogeyman, and stand back demos. Alicia Fox makes her return.
Oh, nice to see Alicia back. And you know what? Boogeyman, for whatever reason, always gets a call for one of these things. I guess he's
on speed dial.
He always he looks the part very well. He always delivers. So happy to see that man get another payday. I can't tell you that I'm at all excited about this thing. It's sad. It's sad at this point, you know? Even like knowing that you have to hit the panic button to like, you've gone to that well for so many times. It's like, this is what you're left with. No offense to all the legends that they did list, but it's like, essentially, most of those people are already working in the back. So you're just going to give them some airtime and a special outfit. And,
like, who here is like that you haven't seen? Like, honestly, like Jacqueline is one they haven't brought back. That's literally the most unique.
Oh my God. Is that a draw? No, again, no offense to Jacqueline. It's a draw probably to you and I, but like, will it make a point? Is 0.01 of a difference in any rate? Hogan will mean something. Like him and Flair, the last time they were on, did do a really good number in their quarter. But again, to me, it's whatever they did prior. To me, it's just diminishing returns each time out. And unless you have like a massive angle to shoot on this night when hopefully you have more eyes on you, like we know what this is. Like, and typically these shows, they're completely self-contained to exactly what Wai said. The poker games, the jokes, and then the big curtain call at the end of the night, and that's it. And they don't always come across as all that special. And I mean, you look at AEW of what they are maximizing out of one legend that they are building up, and instead it's just like overkill of all these names that are just, again, like, I don't look at this as, it's just such a reactionary move that this was the immediate thing that we're seeing. A poker game involving Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Tori Wilson, Jacqueline, you know, you throw maybe Boogeyman in there. I'd watch that for 2 hours.
And then IRS comes in and calls the cops on them.
You know, you got to pay your taxes on your winnings.
He audits them on the poker game. Mm-hmm. Charlotte came out, noting this is her first time in the Thunderdome. She was asked for help by Asuka, and some call Asuka the heartbeat of this division. And Asuka comes out. They are best friends now. Asuka notes she's a double champion. And Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler interrupt, and it's noted they are not in a holiday mood. Nia finally brings up the fact she broke Charlotte's arm in June and mocks Charlotte's robotic voice. And then they started talking about Cole and being naughty or nice this year. Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose come out, and they point out that Jax and Baszler are no longer holding the titles. Shayna looks like Rudolph with a nose job. Speaking of reindeers, the only thing Nia lacks is a set of antlers. Man,
God,
this promo needed Frankie Kazarian.
Yeah, I don't even know if he would have made a difference. So this continues really the line of just awful promos we've seen from the women's tag team division, starting with Friday. And what the fuck? What was it? The Riot Squad were saying?
Oh yeah.
Oh man,
who's Parker?
Who's gonna be the tag partner? Sarah Beyonce? No, it's gonna be Sarah Jessica Parker. What was the last name?
This is how people in their 30s talk. These are how friends talk.
I used to think that was an excuse. I can't imagine any person, okay, even somebody as crazy, maybe like, I don't know, senile at this point as the man in charge, how anybody would think that.
All right, speaking of reindeers,
these words would come out,
a set of antlers.
Like, how would these words come out of any human being's mouth, and how would any of it classify as trash talk to lead up to a match?
You know what's not emphasized enough, though? It's not just how bad the verbiage is. Sometimes it's the subject of the insult and their reaction to it. That is just so... Like, if I told you that the only thing you lack is a set of antlers that would make you a reindeer, like, your response to me would be like, you're a fucking loser. That would be your response. That's how a normal person would react to such a lame put down as that. But these performers are put in the unenviable task that they have to sell this like they've just been accused of high crimes.
Oh, it's like almost an alternate dimension where somehow this was, you know, calling somebody Rudolph with a nose job would actually be a like this amazing zinger. Like, really witty, like great piece of just insult. Like I don't understand. It's like a weird I mean, we know it's a really strange alternate reality that I think the WWE has created for themselves. It's a universe where men can get lit on fire and probably survive, or eyeballs can pop out and then just kind of like, I don't know, heal themselves. And it's also a universe where insults, like calling somebody in need of a set of antlers, that's like, you know, the ultimate. That's the pinnacle of like, shit, what? You said that? No. How? You shouldn't. Anyway, it's awful dialogue. Are you finished recapping the segment, or is there more here?
Well, my favorite part was that Charlotte accidentally called Shayna Blazer. And that's all I've got. Flair then suggested they have their match now.
This was like one of the most generic opening Raw segments you could have possibly created. The only unique part of it was just how terrible this dialogue was. I would say it was a really lazy, embarrassing effort overall for this opening 15 minutes. It's like, what I was looking for here was, okay, is Lana truly out of this entire thing? Like, would she be brought up here at all? Would she make a return? Maybe
they mentioned the injuries, but that was it. She was just mentioned in passing, no appearance.
You know, would she be jealous of like Charlotte? And I just don't really get the sense that she's going to be a part of this thing at all. Like, I think she's done. And again, just begs the question when that decision was made. How strange to like blow her off like that, basically right before the go home show, and then directly pivoting into this. The way they've kind of transitioned from that to Asuka and Charlotte was they're somehow best friends now. Like, these two are supposed to be like career rivals. That's how they've been positioned this entire time. And at some point off camera, they've become really good friends. And that might be the case, but I think you need to do a bit better to explain everything that took place before.
They skip so many steps, because you could, if you had made a big deal of like this injury from Charlotte, there was an opening and Charlotte explained, she pleaded, let me in. I want to get my hands on Nia. Asuka reluctantly agrees. And it's exactly as you said. The backdrop is these are rivals. And for the first time, they have a common enemy. And then you build to the fact that they start to get along. That said, I don't need any more teams that are the enemies that are begrudgingly getting along. That is a very overdone concept. I get that. But that is kind of the way to go about this with Asuka and Charlotte. Instead, we're best friends overnight.
I completely agree that we have too many teams that can't get along. But if that means making Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans get along so that we can actually have two people that shouldn't get along not get along in order to tell a satisfying story, I would rather that. You know, this would be one occasion where I think you need to at least have a bit of friction between the two. At least, you know, some game of like one-upsmanship between the two. You know, I mean, because ultimately you probably want to build to a match between them. And maybe that's still the case, but it just seemed like one too many chapters were skipped here in seeing these two just suddenly become best friends on commentary.
I could also see more disappointment with this opening segment, because if you didn't watch the pay-per-view, this segment was your first response to last week. And if you were tuning in, say, just out of the sheer curiosity of all the publicity that number got last week, okay, how is WWE responding in segment one?
I don't know how many people are in that camp. Like,
you didn't have any interest going into tonight of would you see any change from the norm?
No, like not personally. No, I didn't even think about the rating last week, honestly, before I started watching this show. Just maybe because I just saw a man, you know, get lit on fire, but. Maybe there are certain people out there.
So the match is Shayna Blazer and Nia Jax against Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. And Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose are now the sexy muscle friends.
As Asuka calls them, the sexy
over and over and over again. Okay, usually the interplay on commentary is not all that witty, but Charlotte is being asked about the type of champions are going to be. So Charlotte asks Tom, well, what type of champions do you think will be? And he responds, tag. Okay, I thought it was funnier.
No, Tom was due. He's been taking so much shit.
He was right on point with that answer. What type of champions do you think will be? tag.
Tom like knew he had to like do some heavy lifting on the show, having to sell, a man being burnt to death and then pivoting to.
There was no one more
Kevin
uncomfortable
Owens.
than those three after that Orton segment, and they had to react to the man that they assumed was dead, who they'd be going to a funeral for, might be among the living. And we've got to continue with the competition tonight.
He's like, Tom's in like don't fuck with me mode, and that's what you got here with Charlotte.
I think Tom just flips a switch from 8 till 11. He is just on, hey, this is my world. And then it's over. They worked on Mandy's knee for a long time. Jax missed a leg drop. We eventually built up to Dana's in. She hit a senton. Jax broke up the cover. And then Brooke hit a handspring elbow to Jax on the floor. I thought Dana, like you could see, was, doing a lot of athletic spots, in particular with Jax on the floor. Baszler then misses Brooke's elbow where she goes to stomp it and is sent into the turnbuckle. She stacks Baszler, and as Baszler kicks out, applies the Kirifuda clutch to submit Dana Brooke in 12 minutes and 52 seconds. A lot of time given to Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, and I think that they showed promise here.
That's exactly what I have in my notes. Yeah, promise was shown here. Clearly not in line for the title shot. It's apparent that they're going back to Shayna and Nia, at least for a little bit. But still, though, they had them stand tall by the end, flipping Shayna and Nia over the top rope and then eyeing the tag team championship. So maybe they're still in contention. Maybe this was somewhat of a, subtle bit of promotion for the Royal Rumble even. But
they got to get some tag teams up and running. And, Rose and Brooke and the Riot Squad look to be your candidates, and clearly, like, they are, unlike Baszler and Jax, it looks like Charlotte and Asuka, they'll be flipping back and forth between Raw and SmackDown, at least this week.
At least on the Raw side of things, you don't have a singles women's tag division because you have Asuka as a tag team champion, so you only the tag division is the only division right now for the women, so they definitely need to build some teams. I definitely question whether or not you should have had Mandy and Dana lose this match. Like, be in this match, period, if that is your intent.
Yeah, so afterwards, as Wai mentioned, they dumped Baszler and Jax to the floor, so they did give them that shine after the loss. The Hurt Business bullied a kid with a New Day shirt backstage and tore it up, and
then they gave him a Hurt Business shirt, so...
Yeah, they shoved it over him, so his arms were trapped. So
it's like, on the one hand, they did bully the guy, they did get rid of his shirt, but they also, like... They probably spent at least like $10 on this, shirt, the cost of this shirt to give to the guy. So it's not like they're total assholes.
The VIP lounge featured the champions out there. They cut a promo about their dominance, and MVP has a photographer who comes in and R-Truth photobombs them as the 24/7 guys run out. They chase among the Christmas trees. The Hardy Bros come out.
Eric was in this 24/7 group. I don't know the last time I might have seen
Eric?
him. Yeah, from the Viking Raiders.
Oh, of the Viking Raiders. So I was like, who is Eric?
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy and Riddle are out, and Riddle asks why the Hurt Business spends so much time at the club. There's a pandemic going on. Riddle suggests that instead they get toasted in their backyard, listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, watch a Dave Chappelle special, and get away from the existential grind of everyday life. There's no need to spread negativity. We are all self-aware carbon matter that's on a rock hurling for the void in space.
First of all, I guess we have to credit Riddle for being able to remember that line.
He really struggled, but in a weird way, it kind of works that this guy cannot remember half these lines. It actually kind of plays into this, but it was a long series of memorizations that Riddle had to go through here.
This segment and how they position this Riddle character is a really interesting study to how this company thinks of this kind of archetype of, like, I don't know, stoner bro, so like in the past, I would say, like, for the prior incarnations, he really was just not much more than a surfer who loves to eat or like has crazy business ideas. Now we learn a lot more about how they think of Riddle. He is supposed to be somebody who listens to Joe Rogan, likes Dave Chappelle comedy specials, and I guess is what sort of like a. Would you consider this a conspiracy theorist or somebody who's just like so maybe thinks way too deep for their own good?
He's a stoner. Like this is their painting of a stoner character. Like
okay,
that is where they're going with him.
That's like talking about carbon matter, listening to Joe Rogan and watching Dave Chappelle. These are stoner things?
I mean, maybe he goes on weekends a little further than weed. Maybe that's a gateway for him. It's
interesting. I mean. I guess it's interesting for me to just understand like the 2020 kind of like definition of what perhaps a stoner might be, and it's these things. It's Rogan, Dave Chappelle, carbon matter, and it's also pretty strange for me to like see in a tag team Jeff Hardy be the normal one.
Is this Riddle character like I don't dismiss that this Riddle character will have an appeal to people because he's so out there, and for all you want to say, like Riddle can do these promos and be entertaining doing them. I worry that this guy is much further from Drew McIntyre than he is from R-Truth.
Yeah, is he closer to Drew McIntyre or Drew Gulak?
Definitely Drew Gulak today.
Well, they keep booking him relatively strong. Certainly, I don't see him being a Drew McIntyre anytime soon. It would probably take a firing and then him coming back, working his way up, and then taking him seriously. You're talking years before that. But
well, he's not a young guy. That's the deceptive part. He's like a Kota Ibushi, where you think he's much younger than he is. He's in his mid-30s. This is a very young character he's playing.
It's not a world champion gimmick, at least not in this incarnation. But at the same time, like, the way he naturally talks, you kind of have to, like, the WWE simplification of his natural personality is going to be something like this. He's not the intense type of talker that Drew McIntyre is, so you're not going to get that sort of intense, badass babyface. At least to start, I think this is their way of at least giving him some level of personality, and I would say they've been somewhat, successful. But man, promos like this, I don't think really help anybody. Like, they're just so wordy, so unnatural, and just, I don't know, not endearing at all.
So MVP says, "We are nothing alike." Hardy then takes the mic and says that a man's character is the only criteria of wealth. We've got to fight with something we have a lot more than you can buy. Our faith, bro. Yeah, our faith, Terry, bro.
So wait, so Jeff is what, like?
He's religious? Father. He's like the uncle stoner to Riddle.
He's the uncle stoner. He's like the old school pothead.
Yes.
Okay, he's more of a Cheech and Chong pothead, and you have I guess Matt Riddle, who's more of a, I don't know, Joe Rogan pothead.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't know there were so many.
Riddle's more into like all the different like strands. Like he's maybe a sativa guy.
I don't get much of a Cheech and Chong vibe from Jeff Hardy. Honestly, it's more of a. What was he talking about? Like faith, the criteria for wealth and faith. Listen to us. We're a wrestling podcast. How are we even how are these words coming out of our mouths? Like this was supposed to be trash talk, everybody. Like, this was supposed to be a babyface's way of getting heels to want to fight them. Can you believe that?
No, this was actually a really effective babyface promo if you designate the Hurt Business as the babyfaces, because I wanted to see these four murder these two by the end of this.
I don't know, what process they have back there of, pen to paper and then to Vince McMahon's eyes and then to the talent. I have no idea. But the idea that more than two sets of eyes would have seen this, and then this would have somehow made to TV, and somebody would have said, "Okay, that's great." I can't believe this. There's the promo from earlier. This entire hour had just some of the worst dialogue ever.
This will all be worth it if Joe Rogan reviews this promo on his show.
He would not have a second for this. Are you kidding me? He would just
This will be his first. Probably introduction to Matt Riddle Pro Wrestler, and This would be such a great analysis of someone who has absolutely no idea what's going on and assessing Matt Riddle, the guy who used to be in UFC and Bellator.
I think he's way too busy counting his Spotify money.
Sarah interviewed Angel Garza. He's back. He flirted. He gave her a rose. She might be able to interview him later. And he was taking on Drew Gulak. Pants came off. He kicked out of avoided an O'Connor roll and then super kicked Gulak and hit the wing clipper in 2 minutes and 12 seconds.
Seems like a renewed push for Angel Garza. He's got a new target in Sarah Schreiber, I guess. It's the same gimmick that I would say has been kind of dead, over the past several months. It's since he's left Andrade, he's definitely like fallen greatly down this card.
What happened to Charlie?
I don't know. She was on a. Was she?
They had didn't they have? They were the ones that had the long flirtation between them. Maybe
she caught on. This guy's not serious. You don't hear from him for a whole month. She lost interest. But you see no evolution in the character at all. It's like the same guy he was when he debuted. This guy who just says these kind of corny lines. Anyway, so
if Sarah Schreiber was on top of the journalism. Isn't question number one, what happened to Demi Burnett?
I suppose, yeah. I don't think they're great journalists, though. They're not really.
Maybe the Fiend's going to bring back. Maybe she's with the Fiend.
Oh, okay. Demi Burnett, yeah. A bachelor with the Fiend. Wow.
AJ Styles and Omos are with Charlie. He's got this nasty gash on his cheek from the TLC match. He says The Miz screwed him out of his title shot, but he's going on Miz TV to hear him out. Sounds about right. Miz and Morrison are in the ring. They bring out AJ and Omos, and he says AJ is impulsive. AJ calls him an idiot. Miz said that the briefcase was everything. He brought up what it did for him a decade ago. It was supposed to do the same thing for me this year. For 15 years, I've fought for respect to try and become the poster boy of WWE, but no one cares. But if I had cashed in, maybe they would respect me, and I could take Raw to new heights. Is that possible? The heights they are hitting on a weekly basis. The Miz, he certainly would be taking them to a new level. I promise that. He apologizes, says they were both robbed last night, and offers AJ a role in the next Marine film. So we're hitting all the biggest hits, the greatest hits. Photoshop with a poster of AJ overshadowed by The Miz and Omos.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. We had The Miz here kind of resort to his talking smack, angry promo voice.
His talking smack voice.
And at this point, it's really transparent that it's really just a gimmick. It's kind of like Dolph Ziggler at this point. We know you can hit that register where you want to sound really serious, and unfortunately for an angle like this and a type of character that he is right now, it comes across as disingenuous, which is not what that talking smack segment felt like. When he was cutting that promo on Daniel Bryan, you really felt like he believed his words. This one just felt like he was unfortunately acting, and I didn't think it was all that effective.
Almost gets involved and says it was Morrison who technically cashed in, and then they traded the worst insults on the show, and that's saying something. So we go back and forth here. Miz then clues into what was said, and he says, yes, John Morrison cashed in the briefcase, not me. So that is our loophole that The Miz is trying to use to get the briefcase back, which it would not surprise me if, given the lack of drama behind the loss of that briefcase, he gets this thing back, and they may in fact kill this Money in the Bank gimmick. It's had a really good run, but they are definitely going to test this gimmick of having any kind of staying power.
They've really kind of put it through the ringer this year. First of all, having Otis win it and winning it by it falling onto him, then by having The Miz win it in a lawsuit. Oh wait, he won it in a match.
The Tucker turn.
He initiated it with a lawsuit.
Where the verdict was to have a wrestling match.
By bribing JBL, yes, and then he ended up winning it in a match. He cashed it in, did not win the match, and now might actually get it back. So, like, it might be the worst year for Money in the Bank.
I think this is pretty damn bad. I mean, there was the year that Damian Sandow had it, right? And didn't
that's better than
and
that.
Lost. It was significantly better than this.
He had like a suede briefcase.
Drew McIntyre comes out. He got drunk after TLC, and he laughed about The Nightmare Before TLC. Then he did some more drinking and thought of a sequel, The Nightmare After TLC. So, in unison, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Keith Lee appeared with cue cards to read The Nightmare After TLC. A perfect description of this segment. Sheamus forgets how it ends because he got blackout drunk after 3. They all fight. AJ drop kicks Keith Lee into Sheamus. Sheamus must have still been hammered because he somehow didn't see this out of the whole side of the ring that AJ did this. So he gets pissed at Keith Lee for falling into him, and Drew had to be separated by him.
Yes. So, now it's best friends of Sheamus who can't get along. He's just caught in between, his new best friend Keith Lee or his old best friend in Sheamus. And a really cute rhyme that they did, Christmas is just a wealth of creativity, I think, for this company. We've seen, of course, wasn't last week the Nightmare Before TLC? That was the night before TLC?
That was the Nightmare Before TLC. Tonight was the Nightmare After TLC.
Oh, of course. Yes. Okay. Because the first one was so great. Right. I just don't want to see fighters do poetry. I don't know. It's just like...
Isn't that something interesting that last week the show started with that and the first hour was awful? Like, it was down from the beginning. Would you not take a lesson from that? And the thought would be, let's do it again this week, but with the baby faces doing the reciting of our silly poem.
I think they just see the holiday theme and they can't really help themselves. And I think there's a lot of fun to be had with like any holiday theme, but I just don't. I think something like this you really reserve for like your undercard. I wouldn't do it for your main eventers, coming in and reading poetry. But
did someone beat Vince McMahon as a child with a candy cane kendo stick? Because there's not a Christmas that goes by that we can't have the candy cane kendo stick.
The empty box presents. Really, like, I think in order to really make this a bit more dangerous, like the boxes inside should have like anthrax or something.
Oh, Jesus way.
Well, just like or explosions, glass,
Vaccine on a pole. One person gets the vaccine.
I think that's a new Retribution member.
Vaccine?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's gotta be, that's Pfizer. It's Pfizer. No, he hit him with the Moderna. Keith Lee and Sheamus are arguing backstage. Drew screams at them. Sheamus says it was an accident he tells Sheamus it was an accident, and he's told to go cool down in the corner. And he tells Keith, Sheamus is like a brother to me. For the last 4 weeks, he's been my brother, but he can also be a prick sometimes, and he would do anything in the world for me. And he talks Keith Lee into teaming with them tonight because we've got a holiday street fight, and we've got to win. We've got to win the holiday street fight. And Keith says, you know what, Drew? We do need to win the holiday street fight, and I am willing to put personal vendettas aside with Sheamus because the prick could help us win the much celebrated holiday street fight. Let's do it.
In years past, it was what Miracle on 34th Street fight? Changed it up this year.
Yeah, they did. It's a holiday street fight, yeah. So
like Sheamus and Drew do have like a real history. It just feels really sudden because we, I guess, aren't privy to a lot of the background information between the two. It's just been kind of somewhat just, I don't know, casually conveyed in backstage interactions between the two. But like these two have like really legitimately grown up in the scene together, like at their tryouts similarly at the same time.
There's a great story for it, and I'm all in favor of them going this direction for the Rumble program. And I hope some of it is on TV. I hope it's not the case where all of this stuff is known that they have this background, but it's not until the day before the Rumble and we get this awesome chronicle where they go through all the footage and their friendship.
Some of it's on the Austin podcast. I mean, but yeah, a lot of it is research you kind of have to do on your own. Like at the beginning of this entire thing, I think it certainly called for some sort of video package, or at least like, I don't know, some sort of like, just show me a photo of these two when they're young hanging out. Like,
they knew each other.
Proof.
T-Bar against Ricochet. We talked about Goldberg's streak. It's got nothing on Ricochet's streak. He's going to lose to everybody in Retribution. T-Bar throws Ricochet around. Ricochet pulls down the rope. There's a sliding drop kick to Slapjack, and he flips off the steps to Mace, but gets hit from behind by T-Bar. Ricochet grabs and goes for Ali, allowing T-Bar to take Ricochet and hit him with Feast Your Eyes, and T-Bar pins Ricochet. So if you're keeping score, that is now Slapjack, Mace, and T-Bar, who have all beaten Ricochet.
Wow, all three? Wow.
Only leaves one more. Well, maybe Reckoning will get her shot. Will they do an intergender?
They can at least have her pin him somehow. Embarrass him somehow. Yeah, so quite the threat, Like Ricochet, if you don't join us, we're going to keep making you lose on Raw.
Yeah. What?
Guys, I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful to even lose to you on Raw. I could be on main event, but like I'm on Raw. This is like,
guys, I've already won. Yeah. I'm here. Will he be vaccine?
Will he be vaccine?
He needs the cure.
Yeah.
T-Bar asks, when will you learn? We are not the enemy. We are your ally. Join us, or we will end your existence. At this point, it'd be like, either or. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'll join, end my existence here. I'm cool. Whatever you guys want.
Same difference.
The New Day talked about their match from last night and said, this is what the New Day does. We lose the tag titles, but we always win them back. And Kingston mentioned cracking two of his molars that he put a graphic photo of.
I think it's really time. I mean, I know like this point has kind of been hammered to death ever since Kofi Kingston lost the WWE Championship, but I want to see a depressed New Day. I want to see a New Day that just like can't get out of bed. They start dressing in like really kind of like muted colors. Eating cereal with no milk because I don't know, they just can't process dairy anymore.
They'd have to redo their entrance though. Same day, different shit. Yes, it is.
Yes.
And out they come, like just slumped over, poor posture.
Yeah. Like I want to see an emo New Day.
Who cares?
That's great. Who cares?
We got a SmackDown promo. So this is what we've got advertised. Reigns and Owens, Universal title inside a steel cage. Sami Zayn and Big E for the Intercontinental title. And Charlotte and Asuka defending the tag titles against the Unknown.
The Unknown, yeah. Who could it be on SmackDown?
No one we want to promote. We actually think it would be a detriment to promote the opponents in advance. We're just going to go with the A side.
That could be the case, because who else could it be but the Riot Squad? Like, who is on that?
Oh, I'm not expecting it to be the Riot Squad if they're not even announcing the name. I mean, it could be just like player A and player B that they just put opposite them.
Who are those?
It is very strange. WWE does not do like those trivial title matches. Like they specifically said defending the titles. So that leads me to believe it has to be a team of some notoriety.
I just can't even picture who's on that roster right now.
You either do a makeshift team or the Riot Squad. Like those are the options, right?
Yeah, but like who do you even have to do a makeshift team with?
Maybe they grant Billie Kay and the latest mystery partner.
Okay, shot. That's going to be it. It's going to be Billie Kay and her gimmick, even though she lost every match. It has to be the Rad Squad, right? If it's a title match.
I just don't know why you wouldn't promote that then.
I don't know.
Bobby Lashley and MVP took on Riddle and Jeff Hardy. Match went 11 minutes and 49 seconds with Riddle and Jeff Hardy double teaming together. We got the Broetry in motion, a floating bro. Hardy got sent through the corner, landing on the steps, and they worked on his shoulder for a long time until he hit a whisper in the wind, tagging in Riddle, who had a strong sequence with MVP. Lashley came in, stopped a vertical suplex. Riddle then comes off the shoulders and takes out Alexander and Benjamin on the floor. Hardy kicks down MVP, misses a swanton, spear is blocked, but the Hurt Lock is applied, and Jeff Hardy submits Lashley. Unbeatable.
Yes, unbeatable Bobby Lashley. You know, we've been pretty negative for this entire Raw review, and I'm not apologetic for that at all, because this was a terrible Raw. I feel like we more than backed up all of our pessimism, but I thought this was maybe the first good thing I saw in this match. It resulted in a good match here. I thought the Hardy Bros have good chemistry, and most importantly, Lashley continues to look really good. Think about the transformation this man's gone from the beginning of this year with Lana in that storyline to where he is now. You know, it does feel to me
a year ago we were getting ready for that wedding. It was right around, Jesus. I think it was like the New Year's edition of Raw.
Like what MVP has done for this man is incredible, and it works both ways too. You know, they've helped each other, but
it's been great for all that we've talked about how they've got it with Drew McIntyre this year. Like that's been a big success. The Hurt Business has been a big success this year.
Doesn't it feel like to you that Lashley right now can pivot to a World Championship, match with Drew McIntyre, like a program with Drew McIntyre?
I'm almost frustrated they did the match this past spring when Lashley was just at the beginning stages of this new character, and yes, they did it at a pay-per-view.
Was it a title match?
Yes. This was after WrestleMania.
Wow. I totally forgot.
Well, they did the one match and then they didn't go back to it. But the fact that you don't even remember it says yes, they could. Like, that's the thing. Like, they have built up Lashley.
He didn't have the Hurt Business, did he?
It's when MVP was just starting to work with him. It wasn't the fully fleshed out group.
Okay.
But yes, the answer is yes. You can pivot this guy very easily to a title program. I guess it's like Drew is kind of occupied, but I like the fact that they've got this guy in Lashley that when they need an opponent, he is ready. He has been so protected in this role, and I'm definitely not going to, in an era where it's so often the 50-50 booking, like with Lashley, they've just gone all the way with this guy. They've done a great job. I wish this guy was 10 years younger, but he doesn't look it. He does not look his age.
Having him sort of be the centerpiece, as like the big muscle behind a group of successful wrestlers, just, makes him look good. And I think, I certainly think he's ready for the next step. He's going to be feuding right now, it looks like, with either Riddle or Riddle might be, like the Hardy Bros might be feuding with, like, I guess, over the tag team titles. Actually, that's probably more likely. But then why would you have Lashley beat Jeff Hardy? Is this going to be part of the tag team?
I think Lashley Riddle is the direction, but Riddle and Jeff Hardy is not just a one-off. Like, they're obviously going to be a pseudo tag team in all of this. I mean, you could have, we're probably going to see Riddle and Jeff Hardy in the role of the New Day, where we are going to see many combinations of this. Riddle and Jeff Hardy going for the tag titles, Riddle with Lashley. Like, I think that these six are all going to be interchangeable for a while.
Oh, so that means they need to add somebody else to this group of crazy podheads.
Well, there's are there any immediate candidates that come to mind that would fit this duo?
I'm sure there's got to be.
Dexter Lumis.
Sure, yeah, why not? They're all artists in their own way. Yeah.
AJ, Miz, and Morrison are arguing in the back. 9:45 p.m. We acknowledge that you may have witnessed a death last night, and they re-air highlights of the Firefly Inferno. But before we can get to that, Elias and Jackson Riker are in the ring. Elias goes through his year. It has not been great for him. Riker has been reborn, but then they're interrupted by the Lucha House Party. Elias starts playing the guitar as Grand Metalik takes on Riker, singing He's Going to Lose, obviously borrowing from that match we talked about on Main Event a few weeks back, where they experimented with this. Riker misses with the shoulder, and Metalik sends Elias off the top, gets nailed by Riker, and hit with a sit-out choke bomb in 55 seconds.
Strong squash win for Riker. I mean, anytime they want to push like a monster with these squash matches, for the first few weeks, like it's like, yeah, like this works. It's promising. It's in the midst of a lot of silliness for this Jackson Riker, so you really have to wonder like what the ceiling is for all this. But it's a refresh for Elias that I think helps him too. So in the end, it's going to be like an Elias mid-card type of thing, like Baron Corbin level perhaps. But it refreshes him, yeah.
Randy Orton and his hoodie entered. I guess this is the new look he'll be going with for the time being. Get in your Christmas orders in time.
No shirt, hoodie, pants or no pants today?
I think he had pants here.
Oh, wow.
Becoming a trend. He has been called sick and twisted, deranged and demented, and he proved it last night when he burned the Fiend alive. A normal man would have regrets. But the Fiend is no man, and I am not normal. I enjoyed every second of it. He relives the scene right here in the ring. The stench of burning flesh has a tendency to linger. He says, the Fiend is gone, and I'm the evil son of a bitch that took him out. The lights go out, and there in the ring appears Alexa Bliss on her new swing set, Alexa's Playground, which I'm guessing is going to be her new interview segment.
Yeah, I guess so too. I guess this replaces a moment of bliss.
She guesses where the Fiend could be, makes some burning jokes, and warns Randy of what will happen when he returns, because right now he is home. And it goes dark, and Tom Phillips, Samoa Joe, and Byron Saxton had to question their career paths for the next 30 seconds as they reacted to this astonishing note from Alexa Bliss that he is home. As in, the man might not be dead.
Man, I've seen Samoa Joe face like CM Punk, Kenta Kobashi. Like this was the greatest selling I think Samoa Joe's ever done in his career. Certainly the toughest, to have to come back from that and then to have to like move on to Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans backstage.
Do you remember when Kurt Angle came to TNA and they went immediately to the Angle Joe match, and then they went to it again and they extended it, and then they had to get cute. They're like, well, we got to keep interest in this program. So they gave Samoa Joe a girlfriend. And at the time, it was thought of, this is the stupidest angle ever. You gave Samoa Joe a girlfriend. Dude, this guy is begging for that girlfriend at this point.
Those days.
Remember the comment he made? He's like, how did you injure yourself? He's like, I tripped over some bad booking recently. And that was like the big comment at the time. It was like, you look in comparison to like, if this guy had a crystal ball, where will I be in December of 2020, 13 years later?
Dude, he's begging for Okado. He's begging for the face tattoo, I'm sure, at this point. Yeah.
Anyway, listen, I think these three were just hysterical here.
It's hilarious, and I guarantee they were cracking up afterwards, or at least questioning, like, what the hell is going on? But I think it's a rib, honestly. Like, they don't have to cut to the announcers. You can just go right, like, Fade to Black, go right up with, like, I don't know, somebody backstage doing an interview. But, like, they always go to the announcers to get them to act serious, to see how they can handle it before they go to, like, the next stupid segment. So I really do think it's supposed probably a joke to the amusement of Vince.
What do you see happening in the new year with Joe? Do you think that this is his permanent role? Do you see an in-ring return at some point that they go with him?
I mean, from the sounds of like interviews, it sounds like he's not done in ring. So I have to imagine he might be ready soon, if not already. So I can see an in-ring return. But if you're also Samoa Joe, like
he's really good in this role. Gig. Like, no, not at all. And he's good at it. Like,
listen, you can do it after your retirement, whenever that might be.
Lacey Evans was in the back with her partner, Pey Pey. And they have requested this match coming up next with Asuka and Charlotte. They don't need a handout. Lacey left, so Pey Pey told Sarah that she was the one who requested the match. And she is to take credit for getting the match, I guess.
So this is their way of creating dissent. It's Peyton.
You don't think they're on the same page? How are they going to work together?
Peyton taking credit for the title shot. Peyton refusing to high five Lacey. So she's sort of the reluctant one of the group. And why? Why is she reluctant?
Well, she just got out of a long-term tag team. Trust issues. Yeah.
Don't know what the backstory really is. Maybe they explained it in detail on Main Event or on social media or on TikTok. I was not aware. The announcers did not inform us.
Evans tags as Peyton is going for a bridge and then gets caught in the Asuka lock, but she's not the legal woman, so Evans was thinking ahead there. Nia and Shayna are standing in the back watching. Evans tags as Peyton climbs to the top turnbuckle, so they argue, allowing Asuka to hit a German and tag in Flair, who runs wild on both. Peyton rolls into a half crab. Evans yanks down Asuka, and then Evans goes for a pescado and nearly face planted to the floor. Asuka then breaks the half crab and takes out Lacey with a head kick. Flair kicks out of a cradle, gets the figure eight on Peyton. 8 minutes and 7 seconds. I thought that, Peyton had some decent moments here with Charlotte towards the end.
Sure. Yeah. A good closing rush, I thought, from both Charlotte and Asuka. I think, those two in tag team together can provide some really interesting performances from whoever they face next. So it looks like they're going right back to Nia and Shayna, because in one episode, the entire Raw women's tag team division has been completely cleared. Both legitimate tag teams taking losses on this one. So going right back to Nia versus Shayna soon. Can you see a title change back to Nia and Shayna before, I guess, we continue maybe with a Lana storyline or something like that?
I wouldn't do it immediately, but because I see Asuka and Charlotte holding it for at least some time. I don't think this should be a 1 or 2 week title reign.
I don't think so either. But
not until you're ready to do Charlotte and Asuka. I think that's ultimately what this ends. But this is like step one. I wouldn't want to. You don't need to rush to that at like the Rumble.
I'm happy to see them play with like sort of the brand moving, gimmick that's attached to these belts. They don't kind of make use of that enough. It's always at least a bit of an attraction to see Charlotte or Asuka on a different show.
The Miz is on the phone with his lawyer trying to get the contract back. Styles hangs up. Holiday street fight time. Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Keith Lee. Would they get along against AJ Styles, The Miz, and John Morrison? Would they get along?
No.
You had both sides that weren't getting along with one another. Happy holidays. Drew's left knee is taped up. Morrison would kick away at it. Sheamus and Lee congratulate one another by slapping each other on the back harder and harder, and it escalates until Drew has to stand in and Dad calms them as they go to commercial. Afterward, Sheamus is distracted on top by AJ, and Morrison shoves him through a table on the floor. They have the heat on Sheamus until Drew gets the tag and hits belly to bellies all over the place to everyone. Miz kicks out the knee. All 6 are in, and we're just seeing move after move, culminating in the most vicious weapon of all, the candy cane kendo stick delivered right to Drew's knee. AJ gets thrown into a Christmas tree and then powerbombed through a table where he is soaked in eggnog.
Yeah, ouch.
He can now say that he had to wear the turkey suit in Impact and he got doused in eggnog in WWE. He's got all the holiday checkpoints.
It's been quite the career. Yeah.
Sheamus gets the candy cane kendo stick. And as Drew is setting up for the Claymore, Sheamus tags himself in because he wants all the glory. But then Keith Lee tags himself in. And John Morrison is dumped into the arms of Omos, who drops him through a table. Keith hits the Spirit Bomb and pins The Miz. 18 minutes and 5 seconds. The babyfaces celebrate. Sheamus says, "Did you really think I was a prick?" And he brogue kicks Keith Lee. And Drew yells at him, saying, "I vouched for you." And that's how we end. Dissent amongst the pals. It's going to be an awkward drinking session tonight.
Yeah, it's, Christmas is going to be kind of uncomfortable. You know, who sits in the back seat? You know, who I don't know, pays for the coffees. I don't know. I'm out. I mean, it's all logical, this entire storyline. I mean, we've had weeks now of Keith Lee questioning Sheamus's loyalty to Drew McIntyre, so that story's there, and now it's kind of coming to a head with Drew McIntyre caught in the middle. It's kind of like the Golden Lovers Elite storyline, except
it's Drew McIntyre and Sheamus.
Yeah, sure. The man is torn between an old best friend and a new best friend. Who do you choose? It's going to be very dramatic. But in all seriousness, I think this is one of the lone bright spots on the show. I can't say I really enjoyed the promos leading up to the match, but I think the story itself is fine.
Yeah, I think it's a good direction to go for Drew. I mean, this is different from a lot of their top programs where traditionally it would have been Drew attached at the hip of AJ up until last night. And then tonight it's, okay, what's our next pay-per-view? Who's the opponent? Sheamus? Let's shoot an angle. No, they started this friendship ahead of time. So you've built that up. So now you can develop it further. And if the idea is Drew and Sheamus at the Rumble, then I hope they have it like all mapped out of how they're going to get there. And this would indicate like they have a plan of where they're going with. So I don't think this, it seems like Drew Sheamus, could
it be a three-way?
Possible. Yeah, possible. Like Keith Lee is very much a part of this.
So overall, what did you think of Raw?
Not a great show tonight. Especially coming off last week. I think that you did need to come out with a bit of a statement Raw tonight of just doing things a bit differently. Like I just wanted to see like, hey, we're not just going to throw out the same usual show. And we did, like presentation wise, the exact same. And maybe that's me being foolish for thinking that, but I mean, this, if anything, it doubled down on a lot of the deep-seated issues that a lot have with Raw, and that take away your inability to have like a deep-rooted emotion in many of these characters. Like you cannot get into some of the like these lines that they convey. It's a larger issue, but it just seemed like they were going as hard as ever with some of these promos tonight that just seemed to be ultimate WWE.
The fact that they announced this Legends Raw tells me that they're not on that track at all of like solving, whatever kind of creative issues that might be at the heart of this entire thing.
And to be fair, who knows when that was officially planned? But I mean, the timing, it really does feel like a reaction.
Yeah, I would assume for me, but I just don't sense that they are able to maybe identify some of the core issues involved on this show. Certainly, like any issue with very stiff, awkward, completely unnatural dialogue like that. We heard today some of the worst, I thought, this entire year, like in terms of verbiage coming out from the roster's mouths. So I don't see this problem really fixing itself at all. And this, upcoming Band-Aid solution suggests that that's all they have to rely on is Band-Aid solutions.
Well, we go to the forum, and tonight's show registered a 3.53 from the forum. Paul from New Jersey, can I nominate the opening talking segment for one of the worst of the year? Asuka was funny, though. If Dane and Mandy are smart, they will run with sexy muscle friends. I respect you, Miz, but your overacting makes you a perfect fit for that Marine franchise. How about the year Cedric Alexander has had? I bet Alexander would try and beat the crap out of 2020. Let's speed up Peyton Royce getting far away from Lacey Evans. A 4 out of 10. Angel Garza looks like a star to me. Does he ascend to main event status, or does WWE ruin him?
I don't see it at all. Not right now.
He's a very talented guy, and had a lot of buzz on him when he was called up. I think that it's the tag team run with Andrade certainly didn't do him any favors. Andrade, I mean, what's happened to him?
I imagine he might be back soon.
He was never drafted.
Oh, okay. Well, he'll probably be at Raw. That's my guess. Yeah. We got an Andrew from Cape Breton who says, clearly WWE learned nothing from their rock bottom rating last week by starting with another bad opening segment. It's not as if the segment was offensive, but it was the same old bad dialogue accompanied by the same trope of people interrupting each other, leading to a tag match. A lot of Raw tonight felt like people were just spinning their wheels still and doing nothing different. Lashley tapping out Hardy, tag partners who couldn't get along in 2 matches, an awful 24 segment, and a bad Bray Wyatt nonsense segment. The freshest things they had on the show tonight were Angel versus Drew Gulak and Jackson Riker versus Grand Metalik, simply because you don't see them wrestle very often. Andrew, I think you would love main event if that is, what might be of interest. He says, speaking of Riker, how come roadies end up being the far right-wing nuts? These musicians tend to look at who they're hiring. Need to look at who they're hiring. Yeah.
Aaron from Brampton. I was pretty much tuning in and out of Raw, so to me it seemed like an average show. For what it's worth, I did enjoy the Miz TV segment, but I can see how some might hate it. Now that the year's over, I think it's fair to say every WWE pay-per-view was received well by most fans, or at least from what I notice on Reddit. Why do you guys think that the pay-per-views are well put together, can't miss shows, but most episodes of Raw feel skippable? It's the same people putting these shows together, so I'm always puzzled when you put on a banger of a show and then follow up with an average at best Raw.
Well, pay-per-view matches typically have conclusive endings to the matches. They are allowed to wrestle longer without commercial break interruptions. The matches are usually built up and they mean more.
You've got a great roster.
Yeah.
And I think that gets forgotten a lot, that this main roster is pretty loaded.
Above all, it's like, yeah, the talent that you're hiring, the same talent who's able to create those incredible takeovers, that's the talent you have right now on Raw. And outside of the system of having to act and recite these terrible lines on TV, engage in matches that result in an infinite amount of stupid interruptions to go to commercial break, you have at the heart of all of these performers incredible wrestlers, and the pay-per-views are where they really get to kind of use that skill, to their best ability. That still hasn't really changed.
I'm disappointed that they didn't take anything significant from, especially the build up to WrestleMania. Do you remember that go home show where we had to get those several monologues just in the empty performance center? And I thought it was some of the best promos we heard in a WWE setting this year. And it was this would never happen in a WWE environment if not for this insane set of circumstances. But what a gift. That just was, these were really compelling. And I said at the time, I wonder if they will take any of these elements that are different that they were forced to do and incorporate them. And they haven't. And I thought that was clearly guys that were left to their own and not really given time restrictions. You had, several minute long promos from people, and it was really captivating stuff on that show, different degrees of it, but the good was very good.
I guess they didn't like it enough to want to keep it. Ever since the Thunderdome came around, it seems like they're trying to recreate, very much what a Raw would typically be with a crowd. Am I up next?
I think it's me. Kate, who remembers the Simpsons episode where Ralph Wiggum points to a place in his yard and says, "That's where I saw the leprechaun. He told me to burn things." That's who Randy Orton is to me right now. Even if The Fiend were to come back, I don't know why anyone would feel threatened by him because he seems easier to dispatch than a mosquito. Other than a very slight tease that Charlotte is planning on challenging Asuka for her title, I thought that the only story advancement that happened tonight was the last minute with Drew telling Sheamus off for refusing to show respect for Keith Lee. I actually want to see that conflict, and I hope the WWE can build a few more of that interest for me. Didn't happen tonight, though. 5 out of 10.
Thanks very much, Kate. We got Adam from the street who says, that scar on AJ's face looks infected. As bad as Retribution is, nothing is as nauseating as their entrance. It makes the camera shots when someone gets repeatedly hit by a chair look stable. After last night, it seemed to be obvious that the Owens-Reigns feud would go on for a long time, and tonight it seemed as if they might wrap up on Friday. Also, so much for separating the rosters as the women tag champs are going to SmackDown this week. Well, that's part of the deal.
They've always had that ruling. Who cares?
That's one of the good things about the titles, actually, that I kind of wish they would do, like we talked about yesterday with the tag belt. Have one set of tag belts, and give people a reason to want to win that belt because they might want to cross over to face somebody. How great of a story would that be?
It would also be cool for when you do a title change, it opens up, you'd have less titles, but you would have more possibilities that if someone wins a title, it opens up all these different matches because this person can't go over. Like if you could make the rosters that distinct, that it would mean something when someone wins and all of a sudden that person can go over.
Like they were trying to create that like hall pass. What is it? Wild card thing?
The wild card. And then there was the invite deal that they did earlier this year. How
much better would it be if wrestlers had to compete to earn one of those wild cards to jump to the other show? Maybe Otis would have to win it. He'd have a reason to go to see Mandy or like to get revenge on Tucker or something like that. Or somebody, wanting to just go to Charlotte wanting to, challenge Sasha Banks or something. Like it would give a reason for them to want to compete. It would give a reason for why this person is jumping from one show to another. It just creates story. And instead we just kind of have like a random mishmash of things. Even like this tag team title situation, they don't use the very special abilities that these belts grant enough. So we got a Noah from okay, that's you.
Noah from Vaughn writes, "Happy holidays, guys. I think I should have watched TLC instead of Raw because after hearing what a good show TLC turned out to be, I decided to tune into Raw tonight. I gotta say, spending the first 30 minutes of the show on the women's tag division was pretty surprising and not at all entertaining aside from Asuka's commentary. The stuff with Retribution is so weird. Not only is Ricochet getting killed each week, but the group's goal is shifted from we want to destroy WWE to why won't Ricochet be our friend? Is quite the change. I let out an audible groan when they announced Legends Night for 2 weeks from now. What is it going to take for them to realize that doing something like that won't lead to more long-term interest in the product? And at this point, who really cares to see old people do their entrance and wave to the LED screens? By the way, highly recommend checking out BTE this week, one of the best episodes of the year." Yes, it's their Christmas Carol version, but I have not watched it.
Alex from Portland, finally, he says, "I love when street fights involve tagging in and out. Said no one ever. Glad WWE is promoting legends for Raw, such as Sergeant Slaughter, Ric Flair, and Alicia Fox. I hope WWE isn't flying these legends into Florida during a pandemic. 25th anniversary show for Raw, featuring all of the legends, had roughly 4.5 million viewers. What are your predictions for the ratings for Legends Raw in 2 weeks?"
Well, I will tell you that I'm not expecting 4.5 million viewers. That was for the 25th anniversary, but they have done several of these in recent memory, and they have gone down. So I am not expecting that there is going to be a giant increase over a standard Raw. Like if this were to do, I don't even know what they're going against that night either. But I would say like I don't even think this will necessarily be a guarantee to hit 2 million viewers.
I don't think so. Like last week we're talking about 1.5, and to make up for that is like. Is Hulk Hogan that big of a difference? Maybe he still is to some people, but man, I think they would have to stack this thing with like good matches too. It can't just be see Hulk Hogan play blackjack.
I think the last time they did this with Steve Austin, mind you, that they brought back as the main legend was September of 2019, and they did 2,130,000 viewers.
September. This year?
Of last year, 2019.
It feels like it's a very different landscape now, even compared to last September. Don't you?
It's a definitely
like their averages are way down from that.
Oh yeah, like we're talking like they haven't done 2 million viewers since after WrestleMania.
Like that period, they were like in sort of like the 2.5, 2.7, like maybe like mid twos. Even like threes, not that far removed from doing threes, and now it's like half that. So
yeah. Aside from that first Raw at the Thunderdome, they haven't done 2 million viewers since the night after WrestleMania. So that's kind of like 2 million would be a gigantic win for them, and I do not see them doing that for this Legends deal.
I don't either.
So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for the feedback. We're back Tuesday night, Rewind Away, covering UFC 165 with Eric Marcotte. And Thursday, the big 4th annual post-wrestling Christmas show. So look out for that on the free feed. And Late Night Dynamite on Wednesday. So lots of stuff to look forward to even during this holiday week. We will have shows coming out. Wai, thank you as always. Andrew Thompson, a big thank you for joining us for the news segment. And all of you for listening. Have a wonderful evening, day, week, year. We'll be back soon enough.